Okay, so make yourself comfortable in your chair. Let's just wind this up. Just sit so that you feel supported by the chair, of course, but also if you can, come a little bit forwards in your chair, tilt forwards just a little bit so some of your weight is in your feet. As always, when we're talking about the postures that we look to take in something like Tai Chi, we have to remember that we want to move towards them rather than force ourselves to be in them. Tai Chi is not always recognised, but Tai Chi does require significant reconditioning of the body, and in particular in this position you are being supported, but of course your back and your spine have a role to play here. And so, you know, if you find that your back is getting tight or stiffening up, then do sit back. You'll see me do this sometimes if I feel my back's getting a bit stiff. In this position, I'm still tilting forwards. I've got the lower part of my back is supported by the chair, but not the upper part. But there's less being asked of my back as I do this. Not quite so aware of what's happening in my feet because there's less weight in, but better that than straining in your back. Come back to the posture in a moment, but let's just settle in. So start by rubbing your hands together and then tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder and your arm. And on the other side. And the upper part of your chest. Down to your belly, and relax. So I'm going to come forwards again in my chair. One of the things, as a general sort of intention for everybody, regardless of your experience in Tai Chi, is to get into the habit of just simply listening to what's going on in your body. One of the things we realise is that we're not the same every day. You know, there's a lot of things that can affect us, the weather, whether we've got a busy week or not, if you've had a cold or something like that. Just loads of different things. So regardless of what the textbooks say, how we sit and how we move has to take that into account. If you went for a bike ride or a walk or something like that, and you know, maybe your legs are hurting a bit, or you know, if you mowed the lawn and your back's hurting a bit, all of these things are important considerations. They don't have to stop us doing Tai Chi. And as you get more experience in Tai Chi, you become familiar not just with the technical side of it, this is where the feet should be, this is where the hips should be, but also, in a sense, why we do that. And you know, we begin to recognise qualities within our bodies. One of them, for me, one of the really important ones, is a feeling of spaciousness, that movement can take place without feeling cramped. And how that works out at any given moment is almost in some ways it's unique to that moment. But going back to the basic posture that we're looking to, if I turn to the side, I tilt forward. I've got about a third of my weight in my feet. So my feet and my legs are playing a role in supporting me. My hips, of course, and the chair. And I want this feeling of my weight sinking through the chair, so I'm carrying less weight in the upper part of my body. And it's very clear in the seated position like this, but it's true also for the standing, that my back, my spine are supporting the the front of my body. So I'm trying not to pull my belly in or tighten across my chest. And when we start to find a position that helps with that, we just naturally begin to lose some of the tightness in big muscles, particularly in the upper part of the body. And a growing sense of still being supported. And I often just point people's attention at our skeletons, which are still there. They support us from within. There's more to it than that, but that's not a bad kind of starting point. Space for movement. We want to be able to move without feeling that we're fighting against our own bodies. And one important factor in that is the external influence of gravity working through our body. If we're straining against gravity, then we're straining, and that's going to create more straining when we try to move. So finding a position that you can sit in and later that you can stand in that puts you more into line with the pull of gravity. This position I just described allows our weight to drop down into this space between our feet and our hips, the foundation. If, for instance, I was leaning out like that, then I'm constantly trying to pull myself back. So give yourself a few moments. You may find that things like your breathing are quite good indicators if you're comfortable focusing on your breathing, because as soon as we lose some of that tightness in our belly and our solar plexus, our body naturally begins to breathe a little bit more deeply. And again, I'll come back to that. Breathing, posture, movement in general are very much interlinked. So just give yourself a moment to bring your attention into your body, to bring that awareness of what's going on here to the front of your mind. And then just very gently starting to move, or turning your head in the first instance. A significant part of Tai Chi are sometimes described as unlearning. We're trying to unlearn old habits of movement. And one habit that can be very common is that when we start to move, we automatically strain. And if you've had some kind of illness, some kind of condition that has made it difficult to move in the past or have now, that's a very understandable response. So when we start off, and particularly with these simple movements, we can begin to put this into practice. It's a slow, gentle start off. It's like you're sort of sliding into water in the swimming pool and gradually sort of beginning to swim, not hurrying the process. Hands in front of your shoulders, and don't go all the way over first of all. Just push your elbows forwards, let them drop back, and they swing back and they go back a little bit. Sides, just doing this. And as you do this, notice what's happening in your chest and your upper back, possibly your sides as well. Feeling when my elbows go back, pectoral muscles in the chest expand and then they contract. And that helps to bring my elbows back. Same thing with the trapezius in the back. So this simple movement has the effect of almost massaging the chest. Excuse me. And we can bring an intention to almost reverse that process, that by gently encouraging chest and upper back to expand and contract, we can let that feed in to the elbows, the shoulders, to move them. And then building on that, push your arms out so that they swing over. As we become aware of these connections in the body, we can bring an intention to them. And sometimes that can happen almost by accident or unconsciously. In the other direction, I remember doing this exercise once and realizing that I hadn't thought about it, but actually when I want my elbows to go up, I push down a little bit through my hips and my feet. And having realized that, I think, well, that was a good idea. that works quite well. So I'm more conscious and I'm more intentional about it now. Change direction again. So these things build up for us in Tai Chi. And if we start looking for things like that with the smaller movements, these preparatory movements, then they'll start to seep into the bigger movements. Bring your hands down to your sides, rotating your arms. There's something similar going on here. It's a lot more subtle, I think. So there's still chest, back, sides begin to engage in the movement. So becoming more aware of what I sometimes describe as a sort of connecting movement in the body. Just winding your arms around so they're winding up cotton or thread of some kind. Back the other way. Hands rest. Now, just tilting forward, so more of your weight going into your feet, with the legs being compressed and then legs push back, the hips pull you back a little bit. The net result is you come back upright. So going back to that connecting movement, a key area to focus on is the centre of your body, sometimes described as being like the hub of a wheel. If you've got a bicycle wheel and you turn the hub, the entire wheel will move. The centre of the body drops towards the ground, so the connection is really from the soles of your feet up into your head. And it's a movement, a flow, an energy that underlies all the other movements. And we want it just to settle into a nice, steady, flowing rhythm. This is one of the main areas that we want to feel is not obstructed. So we have three elements contributing to this. At the start I talked about the technical side of the posture, the structure of our bodies. I talked about the importance of awareness, mind, attention. And then we have this flow, the movement, the energy. Realizing that, thinking of it in this way, starting to sort of look for that very subtle underlying energy, also helps with the focusing of our attention and the deepening of that awareness of what's going on in our bodies. Turn slightly, so now more of your weight going towards one leg. That deep focusing benefits everything, but one of the benefits is definitely for me this kind of quietening sense of stillness, and like in the body, a sense of spaciousness in our minds that we don't know about anybody else, but what's going on in our lives, we can feel very kind of almost constricted in our minds. And then turning the other way. I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't be thinking, just redirecting that capacity we have for thought, for analysing things, to our movements, to our posture while we're doing these exercises. And then around. Aware still of the pull of gravity working through our bodies, so we're not talking about cutting ourselves off from whatever's happening around us in any way. able to regard it perhaps with less of a sense of contraction. Back the other way. And then push one foot out, put the heel down, lower the ball of your foot, gently push into the ground, plant the foot. This time, having done that, tilt forward so your weight follows the planting of the foot. And then on the other side, and weight follow. And alternate from side to side, feeling that slight shift and turn in the centre of the body. One more time, inside. And come back to sit. Now it's very easy to lose that awareness, particularly what's going on in the lower part of the body when we bring our arms back into the movement. But we want to try and maintain these as the sort of underlying qualities, a bit like a rhythm section in a band, the bass, the drums, keeping the sort of tempo of the music, the rhythm of the music going. You don't necessarily hear them or notice them unless you're sort of definitely focusing on them. But if they were taken away, everything would change. So when we start to lose the flow of the movement, when we start to find ourselves straining, and when we start to find our attention drifting off and so on and so forth, our first port of call really would be to go back to the feet, the hips, basic structure of the body, and we quite often find that is sufficient to sort of bring us back, as it were. So now letting your hands drop down again, turn your hands palm forward, once again rotating in your arms, but this time with your weight moving as well. This is bird folds its wings. As we grow more experienced, we become very familiar with the various exercises, some more than others inevitably. And so something that we can bring into this is the recollection of how a particular exercise has felt for us in the past. That too becomes an intention, an instruction, if you like, to the body. And once again, just recognizing that this is a very holistic movement. It uses the whole body. More than just that, it uses the whole of ourselves in various ways. So the bird folds its wings. Then fishermen cast the net. Here the arms are just swinging to a natural arc. As I go back, my arms are pulled as I settle into my hips. My arms just swing behind. When I go forwards, settle into my feet, my arms swing See if you can just notice which parts of your body, particularly your upper part of your body, are engaging with this. Where do you feel the patterns of expansion and contraction? This time going forward, leaving your arms at this same angle, but you come back and that just brings your arms over a little bit, so you're rolling a ball in towards yourself. But at this point, having any intention for your arms to lift, to imagine them resting on the ball. So we retain a quietness in our arms that enables us to notice other things going on within the body. And in particular, as you push yourself back, feeling of expansion up through your belly, solar plexus, your chest, again, that underlying dynamic, that underlying energy. And you may find that it's just natural for your arms to come up a little bit higher when you do that, as though they're being pushed up by that energy. And then change into pigeon spreads its wings, so feeling the expansion belly, solar plexus, chest. This is the way all movement should build in the body. And one of those movements would be our breathing. And when we can get this feeling of a rising expansion, it begins to create space within the upper body for our lungs to expand more, downwards as well as outwards, gently drawing more air into our lungs. You don't have to keep to a breathing method or breathing pattern, but you could just try every now and then, around about here, see how it feels to take a breath in. Again, nothing should be forced. It's almost like we're kind of making suggestions, seeding ideas that with practice gradually spreads through the way we move, the way we breathe, so on. So. This time, keep your hands in line with your hips, elbows go out a little bit, and pushing away. Let the arms naturally swing up. As my elbows come in, it forms this curved shape. And because it's a more compact movement than the previous one, it develops a stronger feel. And the name, then pushing into something, also helps with that. So we can experience the movements, as it were, from the outside in. We copy the movement, we feel what correspondence is within the body. But we can also build the movement from the inside out. And I think this is one of the sort of long-term goals in this art. Described as an internal art, partly for that reason. Now coming back, take a step, turning towards the foot, push forwards. Changing sides, planting the foot down, and then stepping out and planting. And the foot in again. That gentle push into the floor, so that you can feel how that leg, that foot, offers you some support. more on each side. And then back, feet parallel, a loose fist with your hands. Now with this one, your elbows come back towards your hips. They don't go out, they don't go behind. So it's a fairly minimal movement with your arms. If I just do one arm but don't move my body, this is the extent of the movement in the arm. It's a strong rotation in the shoulder. When I add the transfer of the weight forwards, the arms move much further. And our weight moves, our head is going forwards, hips are dropping back, so there's also an extension through the spine. So effectively, this is a movement that works from the soles of your feet right into your hands. One continual flowing extension and contraction. And the rotation and all the other details are kind of layered on top of that. And then open your fingers, turn your hands out, almost like you're doing the breaststroke, but you're going back and once again pressing forwards. Each movement rests on that underlying dynamic, that underlying energy, but also has its own unique qualities, particularly in the upper part of the body. And then turning your hands palm down, about just over the height of your hips, polishing the table, extending and contracting. So all of the movements that we've done so far depend on this horizontal movement of our weight moving from predominantly in our hips to more in our feet and back into our hips. There's a sort of dynamic drive in the movements, connecting to whatever's happening in the movement in the upper part of the body. And aiding this process of making a movement without straining. It's not just one part of the body is involved here. Do this one more time. Now, turning your hands palm up, we now come to a series of more vertically orientated movements. And we're going to feel the same effect, but it's not going to have that same sense of the weight moving forwards and backwards. But we know what it feels like for hips, legs, feet to engage. We know what it feels like when there's a push that comes from below, how that can lead to an extension, a lengthening perhaps, we could think of it, through the back and spine that doesn't require a strain. So we begin to look for those same qualities here. We feel the upward movement going up and then down. The movement in the upper part of your body moving with a steady rhythmic quality of expansion and contraction. Again, you may find your breathing has begun to harmonise with this. If it has, well and good. If it hasn't, no problem there, just as long as you're breathing and it's comfortable. If it has, you may find that it doesn't last Every now and then you may need to take a longer breath or an extra breath. It's good. Don't hold your breath. And then turning your fingers out and the wild goose. The imagery can help with this quality of movement. Much of the imagery is quite poetic and can engender a kind of feeling of smoothness, pleasantness. Moving through water is one of the most common that we use. Very apt image, but this one, as the name suggests, the bird in flight may offer some kind of quality. And then do ease forwards just a little bit here to let your hands drop in front of your knees, sit back, push up, expanding again through belly, solar plexus and chest. This is parting the clouds. So if a name or an image offers you something, then we can make use of that. If it doesn't, don't see it as a failure. Not every image is going to work for you. I found in the past that some images work well and then become irrelevant, and the other way around. Some don't seem to mean much, but come to mean something in the future. They're in the service of the movement. So try not to get distracted by the imagery as you're doing the movement. If there's an image that interests you, and has done for me sometimes, there have been times in the past where I wonder what that name means, and I've done a little bit of research and maybe discovered something in Chinese folklore, thinking that I hadn't known about before. That's worth doing. And then dragon plucks the stars from the sky, feeling the weight of your arms, and then the next expansion, focusing on one side of your body, pushing your arm up, again, belly, solar plexus, chest, and then drawing down, till you can once again feel your arm hanging from your shoulder, the hips sinking into the chair, and then on the other side. Once we've begun to get familiar with this process of focusing our intention through simple awareness, memory, through imagery, whichever on any particular instance is working for you, we can also bring that quality of intention to particular parts of the body. If, say, for instance, as you do this, you feel a bit stiff in a part of your back, an intention to release in that area, to encourage that underlying movement in that area, can be very useful. You might want to use an image like water flowing through that area, for instance, or that area being gently massaged, or sometimes just an intention to release is enough. So we start to become aware of parts of the body that feel a bit stiff or tight. But we're able to bring some kind of response to that can help to release. And then bring your hands under you, lengthening through your back and spine, pressing up. Coming back down, see if you can just get the inside of your arm to lightly touch the side of the centre of your body, and then bring the back broaden and back. These arts are closely related to Chinese medicine, And there's two things to perhaps consider while you're doing this. One is when the term chi is used, that doesn't just mean energy, includes everything as we do in Tai Chi. It says that the thought leads the energy, the body follows the energy. Thought is perhaps better rendered as intention here, which highlights the significance of the mind in partnership with everything else, not overriding the body. The second is when there's talk about the chi, it's sometimes described not in absolute terms, this is what chi is, but in terms of its functions. Chi moves us, chi protects us, warms us, nourishes us, shapes us. And you can see from that perhaps how that fits so well with Tai Chi and Qigong. How it's very all-embracing. Extend one foot out, just the heel on the floor, your knees slightly bent, turning your hands palm up, ease forward, so you're scooping water up in your arms, let your hips drop back to bring your upper body upright, expanding in the front, rolling your arms out, scooping the sea, looking at the sky, finding a way to come up very gently, so not straining in your back or your shoulders or your arms. Remember the push from this leg that's on the floor. A little bit of a push from the heel, but also that pull from your hips and that rise and expanding quality through the front of your body, belly, solar plexus, and chest again. All of them have a role to play here, the extension, the contraction in your back. And then rolling your fingers into a hollow fist, grasping the tiger's ears. So any one movement that we make engages the whole body. And so no one part of the body is overburdened. Some are working harder than others, of course. This is summed up in the phrase in Tai Chi that when one part of your body is in motion, your whole body is in motion. And then on the other side, scooping the sea and looking at the sky. We might imagine this in different ways, but sometimes when I think of this, I think of a painting like by somebody like Monet, which is composed of, if you get close to them, you know, an impressionist painting, what you see is little dots. But when we step back from them, we get a picture, an image. And again, we're kind of trying to find those areas, those little dots of movement within the body. And they're often the areas where we can have the most effect, bringing our intentionality to. And then grasping the tiger's ears. One more time. And then just sit back and rest. And we're going to try and take those ideas into the standing postures. It's somewhat more physically demanding, but still possible. So just for a few moments, sit and kind of highlight in your mind the qualities that you've noticed. And I've already mentioned spaciousness, mentioned this idea of connection, but there's other things as well, because you're going to want to try and find these again in the standing postures. Before we stand, just go back and do this little massage exercise again to prepare for the standing. So, rubbing your hands together, tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder and your arm. And on the other side. And the upper part of your chest. And your belly. And your legs. Wake your legs up, push your heels up. Pumping feelings through the big muscles of your legs. And add to that movement from side to side, and now knees moving around in a circle, trying to feel that right back into your hips. And then back the other way. Good. Okay, and then standing. So obviously your legs are going to be working harder now, and it can be a little bit trickier to find that sense of alignment with the pull of gravity. This is really essential. Nothing that I'm saying about the awareness of what's going on within the body should exclude an awareness of what's going on around us. In essence, what we want to do, our starting point may be looking inward, but it's as though we look inward to have somewhere to look outward from. Tai Chi was originally a martial art, so it's grown up with an awareness of what's happening in its environment in one way or another. So you want to have your feet parallel directly below your knees, and if I come a little bit closer, we're going to exaggerate this. If I'm sort of leaning backwards like this, for instance, gravity's pulling me backwards. It's going to tighten in my chest. But always remember what I said about moving gently into these movements. If I tilt forward slightly and pivoting from my ankles, it brings my weight more into the front of my feet. Unfortunately, this is quite good because actually it's quite a dynamic feeling. Unfortunately, it's kind of too dynamic because now I'm feeling as though I'm about to fall over, which obviously I don't want to do. A very common reaction to that is to do this. But now I'm tightening my chest, I'm tightening in my back. It's very uncomfortable. What we want to try and do is, if you think of my pelvis here, you can see it's tilted forwards, then I let gravity pull on my lower back, my hips, the back of the pelvis, pulling down, and that levels off my pelvis, and see the effect that has on my upper body. It brings my shoulders more in line with my hips, for instance, and also helps with this sense of gravity dropping us down. It's actually, in reality, it's barely noticeable, but it's a really important change. It's like curving your knees, and then let your hips drop back a little bit more until you feel once again that compression in the legs pushing you up to that top position, and at the top gravity takes over and pulls you down. So casting your mind back to the movement I refer to in the chair, that connecting movement from feet to your head. We can now see we're actually using gravity to generate that movement, that energy. Allowing the hips to drop, compresses the legs, pushes our feet into the ground, and then there's this sense of a rising, expanding movement in the upper part of the body. And once again, we add our arms into that and the standing version of rooting down. So the rooting down, the dropping of our centre of gravity, the yielding to gravity, is important on a purely physical level because it really helps with our stability. Obviously that's a key issue. But it also is an essential part of this dynamic flowing energy that runs through the body. And then turning your fingers out. So we're learning to harmonise within the body, but also in particular to harmonise with this force that acts on us all our lives, the pull of gravity. We're keen not to get into a fight with this force. And then change into parting the clouds. Maybe recalling some of the qualities that we noticed in these movements in the chair. One more time. Good. Turn your left foot out, step forwards with the right foot. And just notice that I've still got this width of the step. You can see the background between my legs here. And beginning to transfer your weight from one foot to another, giving yourself time to settle in. So I go into my back leg, I want to feel that sense of compression in the leg, and as it starts to expand, the intention is for it to push me forward. Same thing in the front leg. So don't hurry this movement. We learn to use gravity, to use the ground, to help us to move, rather than feel that somehow gravity is something we have to fight against, and the ground is something to sort of avoid in almost. Going into your back foot, raising your toes, so you slip back a little bit more. Foot is slightly turned out, going to the front foot, pushing the knee forwards. As you do this, just feeling how your body shifts a little bit extra so that your upper body comes in line with the supporting leg. So we're now beginning to find these qualities that we initially identified in the chair, more over one leg. And then, as we did in the chair, you bring the empty foot in, step out, heel, border of the foot, press in, plant the foot, and move the weight. When you step backwards, it's the border of the foot and followed by the heel. Letting your hips drop back, letting gravity pull you down into your leg instead of pulling you over. Shake out. So try that with your other foot forwards. Sometimes in these arts, the relationship is described as a, a trinity, that we stand between heaven and earth. So we have this trinity of the earth, and then human, and then heaven. And there's various ways that we can understand that, but we could think of heaven as that which is above us, in a sense. We think of gravity coming down through our body into the earth, and we're finding the kind of link through our bodies. Raising your toes and your heel. This is a really good exercise for mobility. We find ways of being able to move with that alignment, with the root. That can have a huge impact on our daily lives. Stepping in. So it's a really key exercise, this one, regardless of whether you're new to Tai Chi or you've been doing it for years. It's always worth practicing this. Take a few steps through. You can go forwards or backwards, it depends where you have the room. Change direction. Notice whether you're stiffening up in the upper part of the body. Try and get that sense of releasing downwards. And shake out. Have your right foot forward. So now we want to bring the upper body back into the movement as we did in the chair. And as in the chair-based exercises, it's very easy for the upper body, particularly the arms, to dominate our awareness. So we don't want to lose that sense of what's going on in our feet and our legs and so on and so forth. Trying to retain this holistic view of the movement. So starting in your back foot, go forwards, and as you settle in the front, your arms swing through. It's the standing version of fisherman castanet. Your arms gently swinging through and up a little bit. The moment you're facing forwards, moving your weight forwards and backwards, and that's the direction of the movement of your arms. This time though, you go forwards, and as your arms swing through, you turn, and that swings your arms outwards a little bit like the wild goose in the upper part of the body. Sink back into the back foot and turn the opposite way. This is wind blows the willows. Once again, seeing how when we move in our legs, when we move in the centre of the body, we shape the movement of the upper body. It's one movement. Okay. Same thing on the other side, starting off with fisherman castanet, which is a brilliant exercise for developing this holistic view of what's happening in the movements. Just observing that wave-like flow through the body once again. turning into wind blows the willows. Try not to twist around in your back. It's a very gentle turn. Recalling that spacious feeling within the body and maintaining the intention to cultivate that. And we can combine this with the step-in that we did. So again, you can go forwards or backwards. I'm going to have to go forwards because there's a wall behind me. Bring in the empty foot in, take the step and plant the foot. As you move, let your hands drop down and then you turn and bring the foot in, pushing the arms up and then down. And what you may find you're comfortable doing, don't strain for this, don't panic if it's not right for you, raising the leg. This is called dragonfly skims the water. Only go for the raising of your leg if you can do it without losing those qualities that we've identified in our body that we're really trying to cultivate. And then changing direction. Take your time. And bring your feet down. Lovely. Go back to your chairs. It's important to realise that there are few, if any, people who could justifiably claim to be able to maintain all of these qualities all of the time. I'm very keen on the idea that although I do lose these qualities of mind and body and energy, I'm also more aware of losing them and more aware of how I can come back to them. And a lot of this is encapsulated in this final exercise. It's called Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain for that reason. Arms at your sides, and again just pushing your arms out, a bit like the wild goose, but bring them around as though you're going to hold a ball against your chest. Draw your hands in, letting your elbows drop, and then that downward movement flowing down through your body. Bringing your awareness down to your hips and your feet, and the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders, and then once again feeling the push up. Embrace Tiger, return to the mountain. One more time. And then rest. Lovely. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for joining in and watching, whatever. And as always, please feel free to contact me with any questions or comments. It's always good to hear from you. Enjoy the rest of your day.